Hi friends, and welcome back to Abridged by Alpal. We're doing part 2 of the bad book summaries. I don't think there's anything else I need to say for this one. Well, let's just jump into it, why don't we? If I can find my window. Okay. Big hint right off the bat, this one isn't actually a book. But it is media sometimes consumed in the written form, and maybe that's more confusing than helpful, but there it is. Anyway, I really hate when someone does some shady double-faced crap and gets away with it. Like, where are the lessons learned? The consequences? Shouldn't we be rewarded for telling the truth like our parents told us to? Not in this story. There's these two guys and they have a wild rebellious side they don't want people to know about, so they come up with alternate personas. One uses his to get his freak on, and the other to get out of things he doesn't want to do. But one of them starts using the other's personality, and they're both pretending to be the same person at the same time. In different places, they each meet a woman they'd like to seduce, but the key to seducing them lies in something completely superficial. Luckily, this alternate persona has it. Using it to their advantage, both men propose to their respective lady. Here's where it gets really, really messy. One woman drops in unannounced, meets the other woman, and both of them think they're engaged to the same man. You can only imagine how that goes. Eventually, the deception is revealed, and you'd think that's the end of the story, but no. Turns out the lies one of them has been telling the whole time have been the truth, so everything's forgiven. Here are the messy details. One of the men attempts to kill the alternate persona. One of the women is only 18 and her man is at least 10 years older than her, and the other woman is really cousins with her man. Okay, here's book number 2. If, like me, your sister/sisters are the best part of your life, you will love and hate this book in equal measure. The story starts with them as kids and follows most of them into adulthood. All one sister wants is to get married and have kids and play tradwife. She gets that, and it's not all she thought it would be, but isn't that life? Another sister is the sweetest thing you ever did meet and dies. No cap, super traumatic for the others. Yet another sister is not like other girls and wants to live a life free and unbothered by men, then picks a male-dominated career. And lastly, there's the youngest drama sister who really just wants to be loved and included. Is there an actual plot to this book? Not really, not unless you count life in general as a plot. But Life with Sisters could never be considered drama-free, so readers stay entertained the whole way through anyway. Here are the messy details. A guy professes his love to one sister and then marries another. Their dad almost dies, and one of the characters marries a guy 20 years older than her. No easing for this story. Our main characters are dealing with the death of their dad on page 1. For one, it means taking on the burden of everything he was doing at an age way younger than expected, not to mention the fact that she's now facing an arranged marriage she's not so sure about. Meanwhile, her siblings are not pulling their weight. One is supposed to be her second in command, but she just won't. And the other is causing scandals galore as he strings along 2 girls. And as if that's not enough, the main character, because it kind of focuses on all 3, but she's the one that it's named after, is trying to avoid international incidents. Once again, not a lot of plot here. This book is really just watching beautiful, privileged people spiral under the crushing weight of monarchy, grief, and their own terrible decisions. Which, to be clear, I ate up. By the end, basically nobody is getting the clean, happy resolution they thought they were entitled to, and the whole thing feels like a glittery public relations nightmare with feelings. Here are the messy details. There is a truly wild amount of sibling-related pressure and inherited trauma. One sister thinks she's in love with her sister's fiance, and at least one relationship is hanging on by thoughts and prayers alone. This one's really good. This one is less of a novel and more of a fake history book, proving that if you give one family too many dragons, absolutely nothing good will come of it. It follows generation after generation of beautiful weirdos making increasingly catastrophic choices while everyone around them is forced to live with the consequences. There are power struggles, marriages that are either politically strategic or deeply unsettling, or both. People claiming to be heirs and then acting shocked when that causes problems, and enough betrayal to make you wonder how they keep enough knives around to stab each other in the back. The big centerpiece, of course, is a civil war where both sides are basically saying, no, I should get the giant flying murder lizards, and the result is exactly as devastating as you'd expect. The thing about this book is that it reads like somebody collected every scandal, every war crime, every succession dispute, and well, that was avoidable moment in a dynasty's history and said, yes, perfect, let's preserve this for future generations. Here are some messy details. A frankly intolerable amount of incest, and if that doesn't clue you in on what book this is, how's that rock you're living under? Some of the most horrendous and disturbing scenes involve children, but maybe that's what makes them so horrendous and disturbing. Okay, here we have the sequel of a sequel series. At this point in the whole shebang, everybody is tired, traumatized, politically cornered, and still somehow expected to save the world. Our king is out here trying to keep his country from collapsing while also dealing with the fact that there are enemies on every single side. Some of the problems are literally magical, and he can't get a decent night's sleep. There's scheming, secret plans, fake outs, real coups, probably too many miracles, and a general vibe of we are holding this nation together with string spite and one hot priest. Everyone is doing their best, but unfortunately their best often involves lying, sacrificing themselves, or making choices so risky it would give a normal person hives. The book keeps escalating in that way where you think things are already bad, and then someone uncovers a new horror, or starts a war, or reveals a plan that depends entirely on emotional damage and excellent timing. Somehow, it is both deeply stressful and wildly fun. Here are the messy details. There's enough political maneuvering in here to satisfy anyone who likes their fantasy with paperwork and suffering, like me. At least one character is basically running on faith, charisma, and unresolved issues. And the moral of the story is apparently that if you are powerful enough, the universe will simply keep demanding more of you forever and ever and ever. I actually laughed out loud when the wheel landed on this one. I think it proves the point that I put all the books I've ever logged reading into this video, and also that I was a pretentious child that wanted my Goodreads to look like I had read a bajillion books, but also wasn't willing to lie about which books I had read. Anyway, this is a cautionary tale about consequences and boundaries. Since the story is so short, there's not a lot I can say without revealing too much, and maybe that was too much on its own. It follows a domino effect from one seemingly innocent and kind decision and how someone else could take you for all that you're worth. The genius of the story is that it perfectly captures the experience of dealing with someone who has never once in their life considered the phrase, "that's enough." The boy is not living, he is reacting. He is trapped in an endless cycle of accommodation while this tiny freeloader keeps moving the goalposts. I've been there. The messy details. There is no gratitude, only escalation, and frankly, the child should have unionized. Alrighty, I don't know really how to lead into these. I am kind of cruising though. We're in a universe which means two things right off the bat. Somebody knows less than they think they do, and the stakes are secretly way worse than advertised. They drop us into one of those classic situations where people are trying to solve one immediate problem, but in the process keep uncovering bigger, weirder, more universe-threatening problems behind it. And no, it's not isolated to one person like the last book was. Although I have found in the second half of the list that the stories are all kind of connected, like they kind of flow into like one into the other. I don't know. Like there's always one theme or one element of each book that connects to the next one. I guess not always. Anyway, the gist of this book is that colonization is bad. But the clever part is that it's written by an author and in a style that tricks people who might disagree with that into seeing the issue from the other side. Complete opposite of this story is happening at the same time. And by that, I mean opposite vibes. Not that we're watching other people colonize people, whatever. Instead, we have pirates, or at least a crew of characters we get the sense haven't always done the right thing on a ship together. So pirates. These two unlikely stories collide, and we find each group relying on the other to save them. Here are the messy details. People keep discovering truths that would have been super helpful to know earlier. The vibes are adventurous, but the implications are concerning. Seriously, you finish this book and kind of just sit back and think about everything else we know about this universe and go, oh no, I know where this is headed, and it's not looking good. All right, our last bad summary for now. At its heart, this story is about a woman finding out way too late that her perfectly nice boyfriend is not just rich, but insanely rich. Like old money, private islands, generational trauma, absurd family expectations rich. She goes with him on a trip thinking she's just meeting some relatives, and instead walks directly into the social equivalent of the Hunger Games. The actual plot is basically this poor woman getting judged, investigated, condescended to, and strategically undermined by people who think having money is the same thing as being a person worthy of love. Meanwhile, every branch of this enormous family tree is busy with its own affairs, shopping addictions, and passive-aggressive metaphorical arm wrestling. It is delicious. The thing that makes this story so fun is that everyone is being messy in stunning locations while pretending they're above the mess. Every event is decked out, every insult is dressed up in silk, and every conversation has the potential to become psychological warfare. By the end, it's not really about whether the couple likes each other, it's about whether love can survive toxic mothers-in-law. The messy details. The rich people are deeply committed to making their emotional problems everyone else's problem. Family approval is treated like a precious natural resource because money isn't. And at least half of the cast needs therapy, but instead they have couture and grudges. And now for the reveal. The first story was the one about the two guys with alternate personas that get into some drama because two women think that they're engaged to the same person. That is The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. No, it is not a book, it's a play, but I had to read it in an English class in high school, I think, and like I said, I was a pretentious child, but that followed me into my teenage years as well, and I just really logged everything I could. I'm a completionist, what can I say? Next, we have the story about the sisters and how differently their lives turn out as they grow into adulthood. That was Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I love that story so much, and I don't care what anyone else says, I think that the 2019 film by Greta Gerwig is magnificent and perfect. So this one was about the characters, like the three siblings whose dad had just died and how they were dealing with the fallout of that really poorly while at the same time like just causing so many scandals despite the fact that they're already going through so much. That is Majesty by Catherine McGee. I believe it's the second one in the American Royals. Oh, this one was, I think, the most obvious one, just because like it's such a big part of pop culture right now. It's the one about the family with dragons and how they just keep acting so irresponsibly while claiming they have some sort of, what's it called? Divine mandate to like be ruling this country. That was Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin. I really, 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 really do hope that he writes the second half of that story. Like, I'd be so happy if we got that. The dragons probably gave it away, but then saying incest definitely gave it away. All right, our story about the kingdom that is just falling apart and the king that's falling apart with it, but trying to keep everything together. That is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. It was a surprisingly good duology. I thought that maybe I was going to be too worn out of the Grishaverse at that point because I had read like the whole Grishaverse in a week and a half, but I like it. I want to make sure I get this right. Nikolai and Zoya, love that dynamic. That's a great dynamic. This was the best one the wheel landed on for sure. The one about consequences and how someone can be taking advantage of you forever and ever and ever unless you put your foot down. That is If You Give a Mouse a Cookie by Laura Joff Numeroff. It was like actually really hard to come up with a summary for this one that wasn't just like, yeah, and then this thing happened, and then this thing happened, and then this thing happened, because that's exactly how the book reads. I was very amused when the wheel landed on that one and excited by the idea of throwing in something different. We have this story about colonization and pirates and universal threats. That is Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. That just came out like last year. It was a really, really good book. It was also really fun to see how he had written Six of the Dusk and then put it into this bigger story and how it didn't feel like I was rereading the same thing. And our last one about the girl with the insanely rich boyfriend and the family expectations and how it's just all one big, I'm not gonna say that word, crap show. I thought it was really funny to change it from crazy rich to insanely rich. That was, I want to say clever, but not clever at all. That is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. I know I mentioned this in my tier ranking of my 2025 reads, but It's a surprisingly good series. All right, so that's part 2 of the bad summaries list. I had so much fun flexing a creative muscle I don't often get to use in my life anymore. And it's just like another reason to be grateful to have the time to make these videos. I love coming up with new ways to interact with books. It's been a lot of fun for me, and I've been doing this for, I think this is video 15, and I'm still not sick of it, and I still don't think it's a chore. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next week. The lighting and camera makes my hair look so different than I feel like it actually is. But maybe I also just live in denial. Who knows? It is a thing blondes do. Did I have lipstick on my teeth? If I had lipstick on my teeth this whole video, I'm gonna do something not nice. What was I saying? Flexing a creative muscle. Oh, I just realized that in my last video, I was wearing an Imagine Dragons sweatshirt. I don't know if you could tell. But this week, I'm wearing an Imagine Dragons t-shirt, and you can't see it at all, but it says Gods Don't Pray. It's just like one of my favorite songs from their latest album. I don't know. It's definitely, what's the word I'm looking for? Definitely sacrilegious, but a good beat and catchy song. Also a really interesting concept to consider. Okay, bye.